Hello, good evening. Welcome. My name is Kwabena. Welcome. I want to share it with you today on a book review. Some time ago, about I think 2016, I wrote a book, Perspective, we call it, about business, how to develop the mindset to start and build your own business. After all the challenges and the troubles and the self-doubt, the things that I I felt I should have had when we started to think of doing something with our lives, at least starting a business. When they say that you complete school, look for job, it's easier said than done, and we get all kind of advice, all kind of support, all kind of people trying to show their concern, and yet the reality when it sets in is different. So uh, yeah, I didn't know I was going to write a book, and then some of the things that I've been writing all this while, the thoughts, the ideas that come to me. Um, I remember 2004, I started writing a lot on my computer, and an engineering student, somebody with engineering background, trying to become an entrepreneur from not so much business family, at least not the one with structure and organization. We went through a lot, and some of the journey that I think I went through, I put them in a book, and so far, people have, people have read it, and a lot of people have given very good remark and very good review on it. Not because I wrote it, I was just thinking of just putting some thoughts, and yet people have said that it's a good book, and it's helped some people. We have given some out for free, and we have sold some as well. If you go through our streets in our country, you see that a lot of the books that we get to read, or if you go to most of the bookshop, um, they are motivational books and business books that have been written by people from other countries, not so much our continent, and you have a lot of American authors and a lot of religious books and motivational books. I'm not talking of textbooks. And usually, when you get somebody to write anything on business, they write the technical side of business. They write about accounting and things like that. But what happens if you are like me, you don't have the money, you don't have anything, at least in quotes, and we were even fortunate to have had some little education, and you want to start a business. Your father not much, your mother not much, you yourself you don't even know what you're doing, and what are some of the things that I think you should develop, because I think that life uh, does not just happen like that. There are choices, there are decisions, there are things that we have to learn, we have to put in ourselves. And if we get to put those things in ourselves, those things start to set the path for our lives. Nothing just happens. You don't sit down to say that tomorrow I want to become a medical doctor or I want to become an engineer. You happen to have gone to school, So things like that. So when it comes to entrepreneurship, it does not just happen, at least based on what I think. And so I wrote this book, and I think it's a good book. Many people have gone to the places, our shops in the malls, envy. They bought them. Some people, if you go to Challenge Bookshop, is there. You don't. Nobody writes book to become rich. So I'm not looking for money. Yeah, I have actually given more to people than what expecting. I'm not. I didn't write it. I think every one of us has some kind of gift, some kind of passion, some kind of things that we get crazy about, things that we think that we can do something about. And I think I am more tilted towards people being able to do something significant and more fulfilling with their lives, and I am more of a person who is more concerned about, when I see somebody, being able to look at themselves and look at the situation around themselves and say that I can do something out of this. I can make something out of this situation. I'm not that much marginalized. I'm not that much disadvantaged. I think that's what works with me, and I see that most often in entrepreneurship, in business, in being able to think on your feet and trying to do something for yourself. And so, some of the topics that I treated in these books, this book, I talked about perspective itself. I talked about mindset as chapter 2. I talk about educational foundation. I talk about the relevance of history. I talk about vision and team. I talk about leadership and character. And I talk about something I call believe it and something I call start, because you cannot think and continue to think and plan without being able to start that business, that idea. And I also talked about something like different time, the time that we live in, where we believe that somebody should help us, and we didn't have voice, is over. The world has moved and has changed. Even if we Africans did not create those changes, at least we get to benefit and consume some of those things that you have created. And so I talked about something like that, and I talk about the essentials. That's the last chapter. So I will read about the introduction of the book. If you just join me, I'm talking about Perspective. It's a book that I wrote about I think 2 years ago. We have given a lot of them to people in prison, in vocational and technical schools. We are giving some to some secondary schools across board. Some of them people have actually bought some for their friends. I've had people who say that I bought 5, and who said that I bought 5 and gave some to my children, and things like that. And also for some people to also buy. A lot of the times, Africans, they say don't like reading. I think that we still have to do a lot about it, because I think the only source of knowledge for most of us Africans is when we go to school and we are forced to read and write exam, and then maybe when you go to church and they're forced to preach to you. And if those are the only sources of knowledge that you have a problem, because if you only went to school, hi Godfrey, thank you. If your only source of information or data is coming from just the school that you went to, life will be tough for you. And if the other place that you have to get some kind of information is only church, that's another trouble. And if you have to watch TV all the time, and radio, listen to political talk shows all the time, that is another trouble for you. You can do as much with your life if you start to read books, and especially young girls and young boys in Africa. The future, you have to create them. Okay, you have to create them, and there is no training better than building the knowledge yourself, studying, developing your mind, getting the right information. And if you want to become a great person in terms of entrepreneurship, you must study, you must read, you must gather yourself. I would prefer to go with somebody who just finished SHS and who is reading a lot towards where they want to go with their lives, than somebody who just gets MSc or PhD somewhere and who settles with that level of information, of knowledge, because life is not lived out of the classroom or with the classroom information. And this one, somebody should tell the Africans. And when you have not built your mind, when you have not built yourself, a lot of things your mind will attract. When you have not developed yourself so much, you see that your mind, you are always interested in entertainment. You are always attracted to sports, jokes, things that will not cause you to be responsible to create something, with your life to bring development and growth. When you don't develop yourself, when you don't develop your mind, you are always attracted to, the things that just makes, the things that will make you to laugh. People will talk about a lot of marriage, a lot of politics, things that are very much controversial. Nobody understands it, and they are always talking about it. Things like sex, things like that. If you develop yourself with all these things, life will be tough. Life will be tough because life has no mercy on nobody. It is the one that you have prepared to live. So I'm reading about the introduction of the book, and I hope one thing about writing a book is that even when the things are not right, nobody can disagree with you and come back and fight you even when you're reading it, because when you're reading a book, you are reading it. You can make your own judgment out of it, and I've read it several times, and I think it's a good book, not because I wrote it, but I think we all need it. So starting a business demands so much time and energy. It will take you years to develop the business and the leadership skills required to scale it, especially when you start with little business experience and connections. We go through this process to develop the right skills and the network needed for growth. School does not train people to start business. School does not train us to start business. Nowadays, they are telling us that they are teaching entrepreneurship in school and things like that. It's good. At least it will inform us. It will give us another option, another thing to think about. So that the best school can do for us is to prepare us for job. I think the best school does for us is prepare us to go and work for government and things like that. So let's say you want to become academic, you want to lecture in the university, then you go through to get all those degrees and go and lecture in the university. Maybe you want to become an engineer, a doctor, a lawyer, things like that. It is demanded and it is required that you go to school, you go through those things, and you become a professional in that. But to become an entrepreneur, there's no school at the moment for it, and that's why you need different kind of information. So at the moment, the structure of education does not prepare students to be independent in thinking, and yet that is the basis for entrepreneurship. Your ability to question, your ability to think differently, your ability to look at things and say that this is not how it's supposed to be done. So when a culture trains people to follow and to be subservient, submissive, and never challenge anything, that culture cannot produce a lot of innovative thinking, thoughtful entrepreneurs. So you will produce a lot of them, and all that they will come and do is that they will come and follow the queue and wait for jobs. That's why we have a lot of the university people, a lot of the people coming from the polytechnics. Now it's technical university. You have a lot of people coming from the nursing college, the training colleges, the agricultural colleges, all the things that the NVTS, and they are all waiting for somebody to give them a job, because the school as it is does not prepare us, or has not prepared us to be thinking, or to think independently, and to think, to ask and ask questions. So entrepreneurship is a school on its own, and which largely is at variance with traditional school. Because when they started to formalize school, when they started to give people this kind of education that they are giving us, their thinking was not for us to come and challenge the industrialists, the entrepreneurs, the people who had a lot of money. They wanted all of us to go to school and come and serve their interests. That's how it is. I don't know of Africa, but at least the primary history of it, from those who came to say that they colonized us, they say that they colonized us. The introduction of school was just to prepare us to come and follow the line like that. And yet we have come to a stage in our country where we are producing a lot of people from all these schools, and all that we are giving to them is that when you finish school you get a good job. And the fact is that it's not true. It's not true. Some will get good job, but majority of them may not have any job at all. And the ones who have jobs, I don't think have any advantage of the ones who don't get job, if the other ones who don't get jobs are equipped with the right kind of knowledge. And that's why I wrote this book, actually. That's why I wrote this book. And so we are at the precipice, of an increasing rate of unemployment among the people that are coming out of our universities, which is indicative of the kind of education that is being offered. So because if I didn't go to college and I just finished JS or something like that, I would not expect the government to give me a job to become a teacher or something like that. Because, but the moment I finished college, the moment I finished the university, automatically I feel like somebody should give me a job. So that, and therefore we are producing a lot of them who have this kind of entitled or entitlement mindset that because I've finished civil engineering, because I've finished school with a certificate in agricultural engineering, somebody must hold my hand and give me a job without thinking that there are people who have come before you or there are people who have gone before you and who are still at home waiting for somebody to help them because the school is giving us, training us to come and work in an economy that is not ready for that. So you will have to be comfortable with mistakes at the initial stages in building your business. Decisions can go wrong at any point. Most often, the business person does this with limited skills and expertise at the startup stage. When you start a business, there will be a lot of mistakes. There will be a lot of errors. You'll be cheated, you'll be lied to. You yourself, you come to a point where you may even hate yourself. Because that's it, because you have not done it before. This is the first business that you're doing. You have never come to this earth before, hopefully. And therefore, when you start to say that I have this business to build this, I have this idea to build this business, there are a lot of things that you're going to go through. And because you're training from the so-called school, will punish you for all the mistakes that you did. When you come to the reality, when you come to life, you think that you should not make mistake, because when you make mistake, it means that you're going to be punished, which is, which makes sense. But in business, that's how you're going to get wise. If you are starting a company, and you are going to make a lot of errors with the money, errors with the idea, errors with the people, errors with almost everything that you're going to make. And some of them may even hit you and you may never come back with that same business again. So when the school train you the other way and the business requires you to be that much, so you become better as you continue to grow and mature in your decision making. The essence of you succeeding in the business is when you come to a point where you start to make the right decisions. So if you could start a business and make the right decisions and you were skilled and trained, maybe by your parents or something like that, then you will not go through all those mistakes that people go through. But the fact is that most people will not have that kind of training, and therefore they would have to go through the processes and get to a point where they start to know the good from the bad, the right decisions from the wrong decisions. Where you start to meet somebody and you say that this guy I will not work with. When you start to see that this kind of loan I will not take it. When you start to see that this product may not work. So because you start to have data to know what to do for it to work. You can look at the economy, the time of the economy. You can look at what people are going through, and you can see that, okay, this kind of thing, if I launch it this time, it will work. But that kind of decision does not come that much, readily to a lot of us. We have to make a lot of, try and errors for us to get to succeed with that. So growing up, like many people, we had little resources to start with and a few people to emulate concerning going to school to become an entrepreneur. I don't think that I ever saw somebody who had gone to university or things like that and who was into business and who was a role model when we were growing up. The people that we saw trading or trying to do business were most likely, or most often than not, were people who had never been to any college, and they were just hustlers on the street, and that's why they became something. And so when on the other hand, if your parents sent you to school, you will not have much examples to look up. Even up to date, we don't have much examples to look up with, to look up to see that, okay, this guy went to school, he has started this business from nothing. Because most of the businesses that we are talking of starting and doing, in Ghana, the businesses that we have majored in are not the businesses that are creating really the dynamics for the country to develop and for the areas that we really need help. Because mainly the companies that we have to start for the dynamics to change are in agriculture, are in things that are related to agriculture, farming, poultry, processing. Because majority of our people are in that kind of sector. Maybe housing, maybe clothes, shoes, things like that. Things that can change food, things that can change the dynamics of economy. Maybe manufacturing, machine part, things like that. We don't have a lot of people innovating I think like that. Why? Because the people we sent to school, we were not told to go and start businesses. We were told to go and look for jobs. And so at an early age in school, I was not sure what I would become, but definitely sure of what I did not want to become. I did not want to grow up poor and marginalized, and that's something that will set you apart from the people who are looking for comfort. One thing that people who are able to start business, who are able to become entrepreneurs have, is that they are not comfortable with lack. They are not comfortable being detected to. They are not comfortable with poverty. It doesn't matter what kind of family that they were born into. They don't accept the status quo. That's something that is that much common in the psyche of these kind of people. And so if you had that kind of training, if you have that kind of maybe natural disposition, something like that, then it's likely that you will be able to start a business. So junior secondary was beautiful because I like school and our teachers encourage us to study hard so that we could have a better future, and this depending on how well we pass our exam. Because to my teachers at the primary or at the junior secondary level, if you are good and intelligent in class, it means that to my teachers, if you are that much intelligent in school, it will mean that you are going to be great. So that was to my teachers. But after a while, I don't think that is really true. I think that what is really true is when you are able to find out what you want to do with your life, when you have the tendency to learn more and gather more information on what you want to do with your life, develop the discipline to handle yourself, to handle the money, your ability to work with people, the intelligence to detect what is workable in an economy, and be able to work hard, push yourself, build character. Those are the things that I think will separate you from people. So they told us that school had the potential to train us to become engineers, doctors, lawyers, and teachers. I never heard anybody say that school could make me become an employer if I studied hard. They will not tell us like that because they probably didn't think like that. At the secondary level, it was all about studying hard in order to become successful in life. When we were in secondary school, I remember one of our friends who was from, we call him Ninja. He was from Jache Pramso, Poko High School. And the first day that we went to school, this guy actually went to take the bucket and put water in it, and he was at the classroom studying because he wanted to pass the exam. You could understand where he was coming from. He did not want to fail because his very future was dependent on the school. So science was what I did, not because I qualified for it, but not because I knew how science was and what I wanted to be, but it turned out to be a good decision. Studying mathematics, studying physics, and studying chemistry. I think it's important. No matter the course that you choose, if you can do part time, at least on mathematics, it will help you to become a good entrepreneur. Business is about maths. It's a game of numbers. And you being able to put numbers together is very good. So you've been able to at least study. Study. Don't just say that me, I don't like maths. If you don't like physics, chemistry, no problem. But I think even if you add those, it's better. Entrepreneurship is easier. I think if you're able to create something quickly, if you're able to develop and produce something, and you're able to build a business infrastructure around it, you're far better. The guy who started, most of these companies that they started, especially the internet people or the computers, is because a lot of them had their ability to create a product, and because they were able to create product and they had that entrepreneurship thing in them, they were able to run fast. So I think it's easy if you have a skill, if you have a skill to produce a product or produce a system, a structure, something like that. Is very much easy for you to just start the entrepreneurship journey. So now, most of the theories in these courses had names that were never familiar in the environment I grew up in. So, how could I become an innovator and creator? When we were in school, I'm sure if you schooled in our country as an African, as a Ghanaian, most of the people that they said that they were the theorists or they were the people who postulated all these theorems, great thinkers. I didn't hear then being called Kwaku Mensah or or Bain or something like that. They were all using British names, And so there was no connection. Even in the university, it's the same. They train us with names and structure of education that had not much link to us. So if we could read about our creators, people in, successful people in chemistry, in science, in technology, things like that, in the textbook, in the university, maybe they will help us to give us good examples. But I don't remember those things. So even when you are going to school, those things are not helping us to connect with our environment and those who are, because your heroes have a lot to do with what you become, the people you look up to, consciously or unconsciously. So I nurtured hope to be somebody or someone prominent in society and to help my family. But I did not know it would take, doing business. Who were our heroes in entrepreneurship or the industries, or that I could look up to. So they told us that maybe some years, maybe 30 years down, before us, there were people who were industrialists. There were people before us, Apia Minkan and all those. But I didn't grow up to see them. I didn't grow up to see a lot of these guys. And so when we were growing up, we didn't see a lot of industries, or we didn't hear much about industrialists. What we heard about were all politicians, 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 politicians. So if you wanted to become an entrepreneur growing up, the examples were that much limited, and maybe just the provision shop owners that we could look up to, or the market ladies that we could look up to. Then I passed to the university level to study engineering, and up until filling the form, I had not heard of the agricultural engineering that I had done. I had heard of mechanical engineering because my uncle had done it, and I did this course not because I was sure of what I was going to do. During my university days, we look for ways to travel outside the country. Most of these places that we are heard of and seen on TV, and we had a lot of hope in traveling because that's what we grew up with. We grew up with that. When we were in the university, you wanted to go to America or England or things like that, because all we wanted to do was to become something. But the path was not clear. So we were naive, I think so. We were naive. I think what you should do if you are a young man in the university is not just looking to travel, but having a dream, having a mission, seeing what you think you are good at, what God did not just give us gift for nothing. Your future is in the gift that God gave you. So instead of you looking for all these things, look for that which God gave you. Most of us will find our lives not with our talent, not with our gift, not with the things that we are passionate about, not with the things that we do well, but because of the school that they sent us. So if your parents were not in good standing financially, getting the right documents to travel outside the country was tough. Our mates who did not get to the university will find it very difficult to travel to any of these countries that we were fascinated with. Traveling was also part of the reason people will even get to the university. We did not understand most of these countries we wanted to travel to and their perception of Africans. And if you look at most of these guys traveling to Libya, wanting to go to Europe and things like that, they are very naive as to how the rest of the world think of us. Most of the world think of Africans are very, when they see you, they think that you are coming from a very poor country. When you watch documentaries, when you watch TVs, even people who are a bit enlightened, supposedly, when they are giving all the technological examples, or when they are giving all the the developmental examples, they don't mention Africa. But when they are giving the examples on poverty and lack and things like that, war, that's what they mention Africa. So they have conditioned the people not so much look up to us as people with some kind of prospects. They look at us with mercy look, help, like people who are trying to run out, so when you go to some of these countries, these are just things that you're going to meet, and you're constantly going to battle with some of those things. So what supersedes this is when you have a vision for your life. So what really is important is not you looking to get a visa to travel or looking for degrees. What is really important with your life is having a vision, because with it you'll be willing to go through what it takes to realize your vision. If you have a vision, you are ready to sacrifice anything. If you're consumed by where you want to be, what you want to do with your life, if you look at your environment, What can you change in your country? What can you change in your community? What business can you build? Because one of the major need that we have as a people is employment. So what business can you create to employ people and to create wealth and to solve problems? The shoes that we are wearing, they are coming from where? China and everywhere. The clothes that we are wearing, almost everything that we use in our food, our drugs, everything. Yet people are looking for opportunities. People are looking for uh, people are looking to travel. Yet you look around you, everything that we have here is important. What can you do yourself? It's a mental disposition. It's a mental thinking. It's a state. It's a condition. If you were born here and you've been told that the opportunity is somewhere, you will not even have it. You will not be able to even look at it twice to think that, oh, okay, what can I do? What can I do? So some of these things that I've put in this book are things that helped us to believe in ourselves, to try to do something and to keep pushing when everything is shown, or proved like we were just crazy and the odd ones. You have to have some kind of inner fortitude, inner strength to believe that you can do something about yourself when there is no help anyway. So the teaching of African history was not part of our program, and I never saw the need to study history as an engineering. When we were doing engineering in the school, they didn't teach us history. If they taught us, they taught us about Einstein and those kind of people. They did not teach the African history, the complexities of it. I remember if they ever taught us any history, I thought it was slavery and colonization. You don't teach people their weakest moment, thinking that you'll be able to produce a generation that is strong. So at the time that we were completing the 4-year degree program, most of our groups, irrespective of courses they pursued, had the mind to travel, outside the country to look for better jobs or better, to further their education. Because most of us, getting the first degree and going from MSc and PhD is just what we know. You should not just go and look for degrees. You should have a reason why you need those degrees. If you want to become a researcher or academic or consultant, less maybe. But if you want to build a business, a lot of degrees are just irrelevant. And this we should have known. So those who could not travel had the only option left, and that was to look for a better job, which will not come readily, at least not the ones that I saw. So some of us were able to maybe go and do something, travel somewhere. But people who didn't have that opportunity, or it's not even an opportunity, who didn't travel anywhere, would stay here and be fighting to look for job, and they will think that they were not fortunate. So the call of duty to help develop our country was not instilled in us. We've been taught, if you don't know, we've been taught to be very much self-looking and selfish as a people. By the time you finish those schools, you are only looking for your interests. You cannot be a good entrepreneur if you're not looking for the interests of your country. If you're not looking for what can I do to ease, what is the better way of doing this? That is what birth creativity and innovation and strength to start to do something for your country. If you're selfish, you're just looking for a job, and if you don't find a job, you get frustrated. And that's the training that they gave us. They only train us to be selfish. The school train us to only to look for our interests, not to look for, not to become patriotic and to look for what we can do to help our country to develop. So, how was that modern day education introduced to the Africans? Were we introduced to engineering, science, creativity, innovation, entrepreneurship? Or we were introduced to humanities, art, and social sciences? If you look at how education was introduced to us, most of them they were not introduced to us for us to develop. They were introduced to us so that we could speak English. That's all. And so by the time you're through with this kind of education we have here, you are not able to think through things clearly. You're not critical in thinking. You don't really have the ability to solve problems and get the discipline. Yet our grandparents, our grandparents thought that if they sent you to school, by the time that you finish those schools, you will be able to solve problems. But the content of education, because really, I remember when we were doing lab reports, you just go and pick somebody's lab report, dab it means copy it and just send it to the lecturer. You just not even mark it. If you look at the previous exams that you were writing, it doesn't matter what answer that you gave. They didn't expect you to think with your head to give new answer based on what has changed or what has changed. So you have the degree, you have the certificate in whatever course, but really you just went to school to regurgitate what they told you. Yet entrepreneurship, or being able to do something by yourself, will need you to think on your feet, to do numbers, to look at issues and come up with solutions. And that was not really part of the education. It's still not part of the education that they are giving us. The education that they are giving us here, you need to train yourself a lot to be able to use this kind of education to create the future for yourself and for your country, to create the development that we need as Africans. This kind of education cannot do it. It doesn't work. So if you were taught, science education without the need for entrepreneurship, thinking, or development, then we will be waiting for another person to employ us. Because you don't go to school to come and look for a job. You go to school to train that skill that you came to this life with, to develop it, that talent. Then when you're out of school, you are looking at what you can do with that talent, with that relevant information that you have. That's how you go to school. That's the essence of school. So if you want to become a medical doctor, maybe you have that passion to be able to help people. You want to heal people. You want to help people to become healthy. You have that heart. Then you go through medical school and they give you that skill. So when you come out, you're not looking for help. You're looking for solution. You're looking for problems to solve. So if maybe you like metal, you like machines, that's why you want to do engineering. Maybe you like law, you want to defend people. That's why you want to do law. So when you are through that school, you're not waiting for help, and you're not cursing anybody to say that graduate unemployment association and things like that, because you go to the school to become better so that you can solve problems around you. And that's what that entrepreneurship is really about. So and if they taught us history and its relevance, and without teaching us history and its relevance in continuing from where others left, we will not understand what has been sacrificed for us and what we will have to do for the next generation. When you see people who are selfish and only centered on what will benefit them, is because they have weak sense of history of themselves. They only have the independence kind of history. Kwame Nkrumah declared 6th of March, Ghana, independence, freedom. That's the only history that they know. They have not studied history. And yet, if you're an African and you have no sense of history, you'll be frustrated, no matter the level of education they give you, because much of the content that they have given you is really Eurocentric kind of education, and they have really aggrandized themselves in this kind of education. So you can look at your environment, but you're very ill-equipped to solve anything. So it is not that non-science education is not important, but we are not going to do production through industries if you are not getting majority coming from our colleges to doing science balanced with a proper sense of African history. What it means is that, if you go to most of these private universities that we have in our country now, they're doing marketing and business administration and all the things that have very little to do with science education. And yet, a lot of industries cannot be produced if you're not getting the right science education in a shape, So, and when you train them like that, you should be able to help them to self-identify. And much of the self-identity comes from proper African history. So, taking time to develop business and leadership skills needed to build a business goes beyond learning science and engineering. There's another side. You train the people, science, engineering, or the technical courses, and you train them with some level of self-identification, self-knowledge. And then you give them entrepreneurship education as well. These things must meet. You teach only the science without any proper history. They don't think like they are from Ghana or they are from Africa. Our problems will not mean anything to them. So once they are through with the science education, they want to go and work in England. Want to go and work in America. Our problems don't mean any much to them. But if you were taught properly, the right sense of history, you will have that need, because you see the pains that your people have endured. And then you'll be able to also, if at least they give you some level of primary education in terms of entrepreneurship, how to think and grow an idea into a business. You see that by the time that you're through the university, by the time that you're through with this SHS, you don't feel like you are ill-equipped. You don't feel like you need so much help. You don't feel like you are disadvantaged. You'll be able to do something from where you are. And that's the kind of psyche that we develop. A healthy link among science education, business skill development, African history is really needed. My business education started after completing the first, the degree program in engineering. I was inundated with engineering principles and mathematics, but no professional training or leadership. So by the time that you finish these schools, there's not much leadership and technical skills that you understand. The university did what they had to do, but it was left for me to just do what I had to do and to develop myself as an entrepreneur, because that was not something that the school was really structured to give us. And so what helped me was that I was an avid reader of books about business, leadership, entrepreneurship subjects outside engineering. I remember when most of the time when you were in school and you'd be reading things about business and finance and leadership and product development and innovation, much of it was not really about the kind of courses that we were doing. My friends would look at me and say that you like reading money. Why? Because I there was something that was trying to connect. I didn't know. Same. So if you're a young man, I'm not talking to old men. I'm talking to the young people. I'm talking to somebody around 18 years, 20 years, 19 years. You're thinking of your future and what you can do in school. Stop following all this football that they are showing everywhere. I'm amazed when we start to watch a lot of football, when we have so many problems that we can solve as a people. So you need to separate yourself from your friends and think of the future. And if you're thinking, and we need you to come to become creators and inventors and business owners, because that's why we are going to create the future. And so when you are there, be thinking every month at least there's a book in your hand beyond the course book, beyond the textbook that you're reading, you're studying every time. By the time that you're through with that 4-year school, there's so much that you know, and you will never feel like you can do anything because you'll be ready. Because you'll be ready to face life and you'll be ready to do anything. You'll be sure because you equipped yourself. But if you're there and you're just looking at the textbook and the grade, first class and second class and those things, and you every free time you're watching football or discussing politics, because that's what I know they do in those schools. And that's why when you complete those schools, you feel like you can't do anything. And indeed, you can't do anything because there was no content. You were not taught much, and you also did not develop yourself that much. So after the first degree, I had to look for job. I had to either look for job or travel. I dabbled with lots of ideas, and that could be developed into business. But I stopped and went to do masters in engineering, and I registered an enterprise. I was contemplating. I started something. They worked. Some of them didn't work. I really didn't know. And then friends and family will push you and say, "When are you going to do this? When are you going to do masters?" Those things that they continue to tell us. And with that clarity, you will pursue. So I went there to pursue this without even knowing what it is. But I had registered a company, just around 20 years or so. I call it Paradigms Exchange, and we did all kind of things with it. I wish somebody could actually encourage us to do these things and to have focus and concentrated on them. Looking for job was not on the table because where was the job anyway? So after national service, I remember we did national service with Amex International. They sent us to do we work on Caterpillar engines and things like that. By the time before you even finish the national service, they were asking you, when are you going? Because they didn't need us. It can be frustrating, and we know that. It can be frustrating when you don't know what to do. But if you develop yourself, one way or the other, you will find your path. Because it does not just happen. You need a lot of information. You need a lot of data. You have to read. You have to build yourself. You have to try. Go out, go for internship. Go to industries. Go and work somewhere. Even if they don't pay you, you are building your skill. You are creating that future. The practical experience that I had during the short-term internship in an engineering firm was not enough. So when they say that you have to start engineering firm, for instance, it's not just a joke because you're just full of textbook, no practical experience, not enough. So the lack of industrial professional training makes it difficult for a lot of us to start business in engineering field, and at least where I sit, that looks like it's true. Not starting manufacturing, not starting engineering, like in manufacturing of engines or cars or machine parts or tools, things like that. It's difficult because you need some kind of understanding of industry and of business. And if you didn't have anywhere that you had any industrial training, you will try with a lot of errors, but it's still doable. This is the reason most of us will start business in commerce at the initial stage, or we partner with somebody with technical skills. What it means is that when you have no skill, when you have no technical skills in any business, you can partner with somebody who has the skill, but look for other things beyond that. And sometimes you can also start your business by learning to sell in the area that you want to start your business. So maybe somebody has produced those things. You would want to go into production, but you don't have the expertise, you don't have the setup, you don't have the money. But somebody is producing those. Maybe you can start trading in those. And when you have built the market for it, and when you have some kind of money, you may be thinking, and you may be able to start manufacturing like that. The environment for business has to be established well. In our country, the fact is that maybe now they are trying to help. But before the last 20 or 30 years that I've seen our country, nobody was prepared for us, and nobody was waiting for us to start businesses. So maybe you are fortunate to live in a different time, but still, it is you, and you must make that decision. So it will take years for me to understand the path that I had taken and the kind of person that I had to school myself to become an entrepreneur from a family and a country background which has little business understanding. So all I could hear was go and look for job, and quite frankly, where were the jobs? And who would even do some introduction for me to get a job? So when they tell you go and look for job, go and look for job. It's not like when you go, they just give you the job, chief engineer. No, no, it's not like that. There are a lot of connections. You go and meet this person, they will introduce you to this person. So it becomes frustrating. This business journey is lonely. And so when we started those businesses, dangerous. It's lonely, it's harsh, but with the right knowledge and preparation, things get better if you don't give up. So when you start that business, things can go chaotic as not expected. The only security that you have to have is to say to yourself that I'm going to stay with this idea. I'm going to stay with this thing of building a business. And it doesn't matter how many business that you collapse. So far as you're becoming better in your learning, keep going. Because after all, if you're that wise, you wouldn't have collapsed the first one, which means that you're not that wise. So you cannot believe so much that you're wise. You're just trying, and you have the confidence and maybe the energy to keep going and to say that maybe it will work. So don't deceive yourself so much in your intelligence. What you need is strength and energy, and keep learning. That's what that you need if you want to build a business, which you would eventually have to, because nobody is creating those kind of businesses for you anyway. So I've had business ideas that did not work out, and business relationship that went bad. When you start business or you team up with friends, when the thing starts to work, you see their real character. There are a lot of them like that. Most people understand partnership as as profit sharing. So when there is problem, they don't want to be part of it at all. They don't want to be part of the problem. They want to be part of the profit. And so it's another thing that even though you may not have the technical skill, somebody may have it, but you also need somebody who has endurance, who has character, who has the ability to go through the processes to be able to turn that idea into a business. It takes you a long time to develop the skill set needed. The leadership, you have to be you have to be able to lead yourself. You have to be able to get up, get disciplined, encourage yourself every day, and you should be able to have the character development. You have to be able to develop yourself in terms of the information that you're getting yourself every day. And I had to learn that companies are able to do well when they start with vision and have the continuous desire to do things rightly. So you start a company, you're not looking for just money. You have an idea to build a company, which means a company is more than one person. So you have an idea, you're developing it, and maybe you are selling a product or service, and you're developing that idea to a point where people will come in to work. And it takes a lot of continuous desire to learn to become better every day. So I had to learn to lead, to develop and inspire a team, and be patient with the process till it succeeds. A business should have a vision, solve problems for society and people. The strength to withstand opposition and frustration that comes with building anything significant was part of the things that I had to learn. You have to become very strong as a person because there'll be oppositions, there will be self-doubt, there'll be all kind of things that will come against you as you are trying to develop this idea into a business. And so the generation has the best timing and resources to create business opportunities. We live in a different time. 10 years ago, you could not maybe use video on Facebook and anybody at all could watch you live or watch you later. This is a tool that can change because now people have access to information. You can Google any topic and you can study something about it. Before, if they wrote you a letter, it would take you 2 months for you to get it. Now they can send you Facebook message. Now they can call video. Phone companies, distant call phone companies are all collapsing. Why? Because now anybody at all can call anybody through WhatsApp, through Facebook. A lot of things have changed. So you cannot think as an old person. If you're in your 20s, things have changed. Take advantage of them. Take advantage of them. Go and learn anything. Don't just say that I don't know. A lot of things are going to be done easy. Technology improves ways of doing, and technology comes to improve business and how it is done and how businesses are started. So the strength to withstand opposition, you need it. And we have limited access to information. We have unlimited access to information. That's what I talk about. And the internet is a big leverage. A lot of people are opening online shops. They're able to contact anybody. They're able to send anybody. You can send a lot of info. You can contact almost everybody in this time and age now. Through Facebook, through LinkedIn, through WhatsApp, through emails, through everything. So you cannot just sit back and relax and be watching TV and football and hope that your life will change. It's not like that. So there are opportunities in construction. Opportunities. You can start businesses in any area. Fashion, retail, agriculture, education. There's opportunities in sports and entertainment. Don't go into these areas looking for jobs. Look at, can I build a business in any of these areas? Can I build a business? Think through like that. It's not impossible. It's not impossible. It's all psyche and the information that you continue to develop yourself with. People are in oil and gas, people are in finance, media, telecommunication. It's all. If you look at the economy, almost everywhere you can start something. Think. The difference is how you process, what information is coming to you, and how you're processing those kind of information. So, internet, technology, what all you can explore. They need to develop the right mindset. There is the need to develop the right mindset. The only difference between you and what you cannot do is how you think. How you think. The mindset that you have developed is so much critical. So I'm reviewing a book that I wrote, Perspective, how to develop the mindset to start and build your own business. I wrote this book the other time, and a lot of good reports have come out of this book, and people are reading it. It's a good thing. I wish I had the book myself when I was growing up. At least it would have helped us to do things differently. So I am at the introduction, and I'm going to keep reading this and see what can be done. So starting business requires courage. They need to develop the right mindset. The business skill and the network is essential and critical. If you want to start your own business, starting business requires courage. You need a lot of courage. You cannot think like a weak person. You should not be afraid of risk. Take it. If it doesn't hit, you hit the wall, you will come back. Don't worry. You'll be fine. It's better than staying at home and crying and your mother sympathizing with you. So start a business requires courage. And who cannot stand on their own don't have to be entrepreneurs. People who cannot stand on their own don't have to be entrepreneurs. And that's what they took from us as Africans. They have changed, or they have distorted the image that you have of ourselves. So we are always looking for help from somebody. And you cannot change anything if you cannot stand on your own and fight back. So you have to have conviction, confidence, courage to start and build in a growing but an unpredictable economy. Thus, it takes determination, hard work to build a business. It takes determination, hard work. You need conviction, confidence, courage. Even if it's wrong, you have to be able to believe in something, even if it means dying. In some parts of the world, most people start businesses because they see opportunities, not because they cannot find another job. Here, it's not only that you see opportunities. Sometimes you may not find a job. You may have to start one. And that should be enough. enough encouragement for you. So there is need for us to see opportunities in starting businesses to create jobs, offer better products and services. The good thing is finding a market share to grow is not much difficult. This is because most of our business sectors need improved services, products, systems, and organization. Having to work to gain experience and network before you start any business may come with some kind of a, some people also think that they have to work and gain experience. It's good, but sometimes what you also lose is the courage, the confidence to dare to try and to fail. That one, sometimes they lose it. And so they may come with a lot of administrative, managerial skills, professional skills, but the courage to start and fail, they may not have it. However, they find it difficult to master the courage, the thickness of skin, and the versatility needed at the startup stage. The startup is basa 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 basa. Nothing is predictable, and so it's not only the professionalism that you need. It's not only the managerial skills that you need, but you also need the madness, the craziness, the confidence, the courage to dare to take risk. So the level of pessimism that people show towards enterprise and business needs an orientation. Nobody expects you to start a business anyway. If you went to school, they expect you to go and look for a job. So they are not going to talk good about you. Don't worry about that. You don't expect a lot of people to encourage you. Don't worry about that. If it's a vision that you are building, continue to build. Don't forget family and friends. Don't expect family and friends to agree with you when you start. Anything worth doing, family and friends may protect you from pursuing it. Greatness has always been hindered by family and friends. Why? Because they don't want you to be hurt. They don't want you to be, disgraced. Yet destiny is at the point of disgrace, at the point of risk. And that is what business is about. So when you're going through all those roughness and family and friends are discouraging you, it's likely that it's a sign that what you're doing is right. So it is even more discouraging for those with so-called degrees. If you went to school, they don't expect you to start a business. They want you to go and look for government work, become a politician, or things like that. Family and friends will not pride themselves in your endeavor, rather will expect you to get a job in a multinational company. That's what they think, and they still think anyway. So get married, they expect you to get married and start a family. You'll be compared with your colleagues who are employed, and that's one of the most dangerous things. When you start a business, don't compare yourself with a friend who has a job, nice job somewhere. He has a nice job, you are building a business, you don't know when the business is going to explode, you don't know where the idea is going to work. You cannot compare yourself with that friend who is working somewhere. Don't try to do that. Let him do his life, you also do your life. Your world is entrepreneurship, and it's different. Entrepreneurship to them is not for those who have gone to school. You are in it mainly because you cannot find a job. That's fine. If they think you are in it because you can't find a job, some of them, they will be happy if you succeed. Maybe your mother will be happy if you succeed. Maybe your friend will be happy if you succeed. Maybe your wife will be happy if you succeed. We don't know yet. So majority of the people who are doing business, are self-employed. So if you look at our environment, majority of the people who are doing business, most of them are self-employed, and they tell themselves that they may not have any formal education, and they know how to build business. Building a business and being a self-employed they are different things. Business is a structure, it's a system, and you are going to go through to learn that. They may also lack vision and leadership to attract and develop the people to grow the business. They even tell their children to look for employment, and that they engage in what they do because they did not go to school. Most people have parents who are traders, but their children are looking to become doctors and lawyers. Meanwhile, they could also build from where their parents left it and structure it. Business has not been part of the educated populace because the educational system has not been structured to produce innovators, creators of industries who embrace the idea of learning to build anything after school. Perhaps it could be one of the reasons we have many informal business sectors. And that is true because it takes a lot of thinking and ability and structure. They say that starting business, you don't need a school. That's why they say a lot of people have dropped out. Listen, if somebody drops out from Harvard, that is not uneducated person. If somebody drops out from some developed country, that person that you are is educated. So don't forget that. The closest we get to with interpretation from those who have degrees is about consultants. So most of our educated people are just consultants, accounting consultants, project consultants. They don't try to start a business because they don't want. The consultant is always in the middle. He doesn't take any risk. And we have left it. That's why foreigners are taking all these industries. Go to construction, go to retail, go to manufacturing, go to everywhere. It's all foreigners because our education educational system has produced people who only think of themselves and they only think of their comfort and jobs. So business building companies require that one develops the mindset to think structurally and learn how to work with it. So if you only think of your interests, you cannot build a business. Solving problems is what business is all about. So when we doubt our abilities to solve problems, we will not have many entrepreneurs and supporting or a supporting ecosystem that can develop many business people. When you doubt yourself, like the way the Africans have been taught to doubt themselves, producing entrepreneurs who can think structurally will be difficult. Will be difficult. Producing entrepreneurs who can think structurally will be difficult. So I'm doing a book review on a book that I wrote the other time, and it is called Perspective: How to Develop the Mindset to Start and Build Your Business. If you have a son, if you have a daughter, you're sending to school, help them to read wide, help them to study. It's the way forward. Actually, entrepreneurship for me is just about the only tool the only last tool that we have as Africans to develop. If you can get a lot of our young people to think creatively and dare to take risk and develop something and be able to build a business and build a business around those ideas, we may have a fair chance of being able to compete with the Chinese and the Koreans and all those people that they tell us we started developing with, because what they use to develop, they were people like you, like me, who dare to risk and to develop a product. So yes, the government may have, the government may have created the enabling environment, but the people had the mindset to think big. The people had the mindset to develop. The people had the mindset to believe in their country. So I'm doing the introduction of the book, and I will continue to do all the other subjects. So I want to stop here today. There's a lot that you can read and find out of the book. Nobody writes a book to get money, so I'm not looking for money. I'm just passionate about the development of our country, and I think that if you can encourage a lot of our people to think differently and try to do something from where they are, they will not feel like it's that frustrating here, because we've been there somewhere, and it's not that cool anywhere. So don't ever deceive yourself that when you jump out and go somewhere, life is fulfilling when you know what you're doing with your life, when you know that you're living for a reason, when you have that sense of mission, that sense of purpose. And for me, nothing comes close, to living that sense of vision, that sense of purpose, when you really are creating something from an idea into a product, and it helping and changing lives. So some of the topics once again will be mindset. We are at the introduction. So from the introduction, we will talk about perspective itself and mindset, educational foundation. We talk about the relevance of history. It's very much important. We talk about vision and team leadership. We talk about believe it. You have to believe in yourself. So much important. And how to start the business. We talk about different time and then essentials. So thank you very much for watching. So tomorrow I will continue to review the book Perspective. Thank you very much for watching.